What's up, guys? I'm Jack, and this is Daisy. Daisy, come here. Your time to shine, baby. One more time. Daisy. And welcome to another video. So, beating Elden Ring as Malenia was pretty fun, and I'm really glad I got to use the deflecting hard tier. That thing is so much fun. But now I wanted to try a different challenge. I put up a poll with a few different challenge run ideas, and you guys voted to see Elden Ring as a chef. So what are the rules for this run? Well, first of all, we can only use chef tools, so anything with butchering knife or cleaver in the name, the hammer to tenderize some meat, the wheel of Giza also for meat tenderizing, and the fire spark perfume just to cook whatever meal that we get, as well as the blood beans fork to eat. Second, of course, all DLC remembrance bosses. Third, I have to stay at less than 40 vigor, up until Radahn at least. Fourth, no summons except for Egon, of course, and the last one, no damage buffing incantations. Of course, I named my new character Gordon, and I tried my best to make him look like Gordon Ramsay, and I think I did an okay job, but definitely could have been a little bit better. I'm honestly not too good at these character creation screens, in Elden Ring at least. And before I start taking down bosses, I'm going to collect a bunch of map fragments and Erdtree fragments, get my level up a little bit, and to unlock a bunch of Sites of Grace all around the Shadow Realm. And I'd rather do this now rather than later, just because it's easier to teleport from boss to boss once you have all these graces, and the bosses are a little bit easier once you collect some Erdtree fragments, so it's a win-win. Now, unfortunately, all of the footage from before the DLC got corrupted, so I don't have anything from the main game to show you guys, but that's alright. We'll make do. Now, much like a chef, our main weapon for this run is going to be our knife. In this case, the butchering knife. And on this butchering knife, I put the Ash of War Flaming Strike, so that we can cut through our enemies like a hot knife through butter. Now, on my way to the Divine Beast Dancing Lion, I run into some scorpions and I fry them up just to make some quick scorpion stew. A delicious, delicious homemade meal. I would highly recommend trying some if you haven't. Link to that recipe is in the description. So past the scorpions, we run past a bunch of enemies, not bothering to fight any of them because I'll probably die, to be honest. So we make it to the Theater of the Divine Beast Dancing Lion, where we're going to have our first fight of the run. And I heard you guys loud and clear in the last comments section, and I really appreciate the feedback. From now on, I will be including all full fights as well as a bunch of losses too, just so you can see the entire journey of what I went through for these challenge runs. I'm always worried about making videos too long. I don't want you guys to have to sit through 2 hours of Elden Ring challenge run, but hey, if you want to, go for it, and if you don't want to, you can just skip through it a bit. But I'd definitely rather give you guys the option to watch an extended video rather than just cutting out what I think you wouldn't like, even if you would like it, you know? So, there you go. Full fights, lots of losses, full journey. I hope you guys enjoy that. So we start off this Divine Beast Dancing Lion fight with our hammer. And on the hammer, I do have Royal Knight's Resolve, and that just gives us a massive damage buff the next time we hit an enemy. So that actually did solid damage. Now we do this so we can tenderize the Divine Beast Dancing Lion a little bit, get the meat a little bit softer, before we pull out our butchering knife and heat it up a little bit. This will help us get some good clean cuts on the Divine Beast Dancing Lion and some good slices. Now after we slice our meat, we're of course going to want to put it in a pan and heat it up a little bit. So that's what the Fire Spark perfume is for. We're just going to cook the Divine Beast Dancing Lion up a little bit and get a nice sear on that. Now you're going to want to season the Divine Beast Dancing Lion up a little bit. I personally just like to use some salt, some pepper, and some butter when I'm cooking up a Divine Beast Dancing Lion. You don't always need crazy seasonings to make a meat taste good. Sometimes it's the simple things that taste the best. It also wouldn't hurt to put some rosemary on there while you're grilling up some Dancing Lion. Now you'll know that the Divine Beast Dancing Lion is ready to be cooked when she switches over to ice. That's when you want to pull out your fire and just start charring that baby up. About 3 minutes on each side, and that should be good. You don't want it overcooked, otherwise it's just not very good. It's a little bit chewy and kind of gross. So 3 minutes each side, just enough to get some grill marks on that baby. So the Dancing Lion is very weak to fire damage, and that's pretty great. We're actually shredding through her with our Fire Spark perfume bottle, especially if we can get a Wall of Sparks Ash of War off on her and get her trapped in there. That, wow, that does a lot of damage. Our Dancing Lion fillet is finally finished being cooked, so I'm going to pull out my fork and get to eating, and this thing is pretty good. And by the way, I put Sacred Blade on my fork just to have some holy damage, honestly. That's the only reason I did it. I was just missing holy damage in my build, so that's why that's there. But the Divine Beast Dancing Lion is finished. Great meal, 10 out of 10. The Twin Moon Knight Rellana did not go nearly as well though, because I've lost quite a few times. Yeah, and I got pretty close on my first try, it just didn't end up going my way for a while. And much like the Divine Beast Dancing Lion, I would start with my hammer, swap over to my butchering knife, then cook her up with some Fire Spark perfume before finally enjoying the meal with my fork. But yeah, it just wasn't going too well. Hi Daisy. We did do a pretty decent amount of damage, hi Daisy, with our hammer when it was buffed by Royal Knight's Resolve. But I kept getting hit during the buff animation just because I was kind of dumb and I just kept doing it randomly rather than strategically, and that led to a lot of deaths. Now, unlike Dancing Lion meat, which is pretty similar to Japanese Wagyu, Moon Knight meat is a little bit gamier. It's kind of more similar to venison, if you've ever had that deer meat. So it's a bit tougher, not nearly as soft. It doesn't melt in your mouth, but still pretty good. And honestly, I wouldn't change up the seasonings too much. Salt, pepper, rosemary is always good for something like that. Alright, we gotta be pretty close to a poise break over here. Come here, Rellana. Dude, you're not even good. Alright, we'll get her down a little bit lower with this perfume bottle, and then I'll pull out my fork and see what I can do. As long as I don't get killed by this. Okay, I think we're good. Anyway, even with the deflecting hard tier, I did have some trouble with Rellana over here. Much like the Malenia run, I just couldn't figure out the timings for the blocks when I was using either the hammer or the butchering knife. But, eventually we just tanked through it with all of our blasts of Crimson Tears and healing and whatnot. And we survived long enough to get to our fork and finally eat our delicious meal. I actually already started recording the challenge for next week, and Rellana took me a bit longer with that one, and I did finally get the hang of the deflecting hard tier with that one, so I think I got the parries down for Rellana now. So that'll be fun to show you guys in the next video. But with that, I almost died right before taking out Rellana. One more hit should do the trick though, so as long as we can get an opening, we'll be a-okay. Also, my buddy Corey is coming in next week to visit. I will already have a video for that ready, so don't worry about me missing any weeks of videos, but he's a really interesting dude. I definitely have mentioned him in previous videos before, and he actually showed up in the, I think it was the Frenzy Flame one, no, it was the Sunflower one where he said an interesting quote. But regardless, it might be fun to stream with him. So if you guys would be interested in seeing us stream, I do have a setup, and he is hilarious, though he does say some crazy things, and I would have to find a way to censor him quite often. But I think it would be quite entertaining if you guys are interested in seeing something like that. I can make it happen, just let me know. Anywho, Putrescent Knight. This guy gave me more trouble than he should have. I should have beaten him on my first and second attempts, which you guys just saw in the gameplay. But instead, I didn't. And it took me a very long time after that, because I just couldn't dodge his attacks. And honestly, I don't have a good recipe for this guy. I know he's part horse, but I've never eaten horse or putrescent, so I'm not quite sure how to cook this one up. So we're just gonna prepare it like every other enemy before us. Before him, I suppose. Before I recorded this video, I just watched a quick little short from Zuli the Witch. I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you guys have seen her before. She does a bunch of like little Elden Ring lore videos, and the most recent one that she just came out with was actually about putrescence. And her theory is that it's basically, it's kind of gross, but okay, when human bodies aren't properly prepared for death, and they are left to rot in something like a coffin, sometimes they form this goopy substance. And it's kind of her theory that putrescence is that goopy substance from all the giant coffins that are lining the deep stone coffin area. So yeah, needless to say, there aren't many recipes for human goop out there. Though it does look kind of similar to Jello, I suppose. So there you go. Just pretend it's Jello, and yeah. And I don't know why it took me so long. I think I was just off my game here a little bit, but all of our weapons did a substantial amount of damage, especially our hammer. That knocked her down quite a bit at the beginning, and then holy damage does quite well against her, so our Blood Fiend's Fork did quite nice as well. Oh, I ran out of mana there, but that's fine. One last poke and we're good to go. Putrescent Knight down, 3 remembrances out of 10 plus Bayle. I decided to go for Gaius next, just to get those 5 extra Scadutree fragments, and this is where I discovered that I did not have the deflecting hard tier on this entire time. See, I thought that I equipped it right after I got it, which was before the Dancing Lion, but turns out I actually didn't. So that might have been one of the reasons why I died so much to Rellana and the Putrescent Knight, just because I thought I was blocking their attacks, but I actually wasn't. And I'm not too sure how I didn't notice that. I feel kind of stupid. But it happens. So we tenderize this massive hog with our hammer for a little bit, and after we get the poise break, that's when we pull out our knife and get to chopping. There are a lot of things that you can do with pork. You can of course do pulled pork, or you could do bacon. You could do, that's all I got. Oh, ham. And ham. Canadian bacon. Okay, I give up. Anyway, Commander Gaius actually wasn't too difficult with this build. I really like the deflecting hard tier in this fight. I think it's pretty fun. Especially because I suck at dodging a lot of his attacks, so parrying it can sometimes be a little bit easier. And I'm probably always going to use the deflecting hard tier from now on in all of my runs. God, that is so much fun when you get used to it. Okay, I really want to do a Lies of P run. That game was really good. Not as good as Elden Ring, but a beautiful, beautiful game. If you guys have any Lies of P challenge run ideas, or if you'd be interested in seeing that, let me know. I actually heard that they're making another game, the next game in their series, and it's going to be open world, kind of like Elden Ring, so keep an eye out for that. It might be really good. Actually, it probably will be really good. But Commander Gaius got smoked a little bit. It really only took us, I think, 2 tries to take him down, which, thank God we're getting better at him. If you watched any of my earlier challenge run videos, I basically complained about Gaius the entire time. I would always complain about his jerky and unpredictable moveset, and that I could not get a handle on dodging his attacks, and I still kind of can't, as you can see. But it's really nice to see that I'm getting a little bit better at this. Progress is good, and it feels good. And before too long, Commander Gaius has been fully consumed by me. And it was delicious. Revenge is so sweet. Messmer's up next, and this didn't go nearly as well as Gaius. Well, my first attempt actually went pretty well. We got him down below half, and actually to about a quarter health. And after that, I messed up a few times. And by messed up, I mean I forgot how to play the game. Now, I think I probably could have won this first attempt if I didn't get trapped in a corner like that with all the big snaky boys, and then, yeah. And then I didn't win any of the attempts after that for a very long time. It was rough. I was the one who got cooked in this situation, not Messmer. I tried out the Putrescent Cleaver for a little while, and it was alright. It took up a lot of screen space, so sometimes it obstructed my view, but like still a pretty good weapon, definitely our highest damaging weapon at the time. But after a while of getting absolutely murked by this guy, I decided to get my next weapon. That being the Wheel of Giza. And this thing kind of looks like a special meat tenderizer. I'll see if I can find a picture of it and put it up on screen here. Yeah, that thing. I've never actually used one. I don't really cook meat too often, to be honest. I became like a vegetarian for kind of like a year or two. A little bit. I would still eat meat occasionally. Just kind of grossed me out a little bit, so I've tried to avoid it when I could. But I'm getting back into it nowadays. A little bit. It also saves me money to not buy meat at the grocery store because meat's pretty expensive. So after getting my meat tenderized by Messmer for a bit, I decided that I wasn't going to eat him. No, I was just going to tenderize his meat. Gross. So my first attempt with the Wheel of Giza didn't end well. I died almost immediately, but my second attempt, that's what you guys are seeing right now, and it went a lot better. Giza does bleed damage, which is fantastic. And also it just does a really, really high amount of base damage, especially on things like jump attacks and counters like that. So overall, a very great weapon. I'm not going to use it too much, but it was really fun for Messmer, and I'm glad I got a chance to use it for something. So the second phase began, and Messmer turns into a giant snake. Now, fun fact about me, I did actually eat rat snake once, and it was gross. Long story short, I used to be a Boy Scout, and our troop thought that we were very cool and manly because we wanted to do this whole survival trip where we spent a week in the woods with no food or water, only whatever we could fit in our pockets. And we did just that. On day one, some of the older scouts managed to capture a rat snake, and then they cooked it over a fire for a little bit. And it tasted like a tire. Yeah, it was just rubber, basically. And the funny thing is, after day one, for the next 6 days, we didn't manage to catch anything. I basically lived off of a bunch of tiny wild strawberries for an entire week and spring water, which was pretty good. But by the end of the week, I had lost 8 pounds, which that's not great. Yeah, it turns out trying to survive in the woods is actually tougher than you would think, even if you have a little bit of training, because animals don't just come up to you and let you capture and eat them. But I am glad I had that experience. It was a very humbling one, and we absolutely humbled Messmer once we got our hands on the Wheel of Giza as well. So, with Messmer down, it's time to move on to our next boss, finally. And the next boss that we're taking down is Romina. Now, scorpion is a delicacy in some countries, and a delicacy that I myself will never enjoy. There is no way in hell I will put a scorpion in my mouth. I don't care how good it tastes. I'm not doing that. No. No. But I think the best way to prepare the scorpion would probably be to just roast it over a fire for a little bit before putting it on our fork. Though I didn't think of that at the time, and I just went for the good old-fashioned hammer, knife, fire, fork combo. And that probably would have been a bit more efficient too, considering Romina is weak to fire damage. Now, you guys saw our first attempt very briefly. I just showed the part where I died right at the end of it. And I probably would have won that attempt if I hadn't been Scarlet Rotted earlier on. Regardless, this is not a bad build for Romina. Thankfully, unlike Messmer, it only took us 2 attempts to win this fight. And I really needed a win at this point, considering how long Messmer took me. Now, I don't have any Scorpion recipes for you guys, but I do have a drink recipe that's called the Scorpion, so I'll tell you guys that while we are fighting Romina right here. So we use 1.5 ounces of fresh lemon juice, 2 ounces of fresh orange juice, 1/2 ounce of orgeat syrup, I have no idea what that is, 1 ounce of brandy, 2 ounces of light rum, and 1 cup of ice. And you just blend that up in a blender. So we're basically just going to do that with Romina to make ourselves a tasty Scorpion drink, I suppose. I don't even drink alcohol that much, so let me know if it's any good, if anybody's tried one. Oh man, I am starting to get hungry. It is 6 p.m. where I am right now, Labor Day, and I could go for some food. I think after we finish up with Romina right here, I'm going to make some dinner. But until then, enjoy the rest of this fight. I don't feel like talking. So today we're making one of my all-time favorite meals, pierogies. We start with flour, egg, salt, olive oil, and some water to make the dough, and I'll put the exact amount in the description below if you guys want to try to make it. We mix everything around, of course. And then once everything is thoroughly mixed around, we're going to get our hands in there and try to form a ball of dough. And that dough ball then needs to rest for about 30 or so minutes, which gives us the perfect amount of time to make our filling for our pierogies. In this case, we're making mashed potatoes. Now, I like to boil my potatoes to make them soft. You could also put them in the oven for a bit or microwave them if you really want, but I like to boil them, mash them, put them in a stew. And after I slice them up and put them in the pot for a little bit, once they're really soft and basically falling apart, that's when I know they're ready to be mashed. Now, I'm sure y'all don't need me to tell you how to make mashed potatoes. I'm sure most of you are very good at making mashed potatoes, but I just like to put some salt in there, some cheese, milk, butter, you know, the classic normal mashed potato stuff. It is good to put cheese in mashed potatoes, especially for a pierogi recipe. It just adds a little bit to it. I also didn't have any butter, so I had to use olive oil, which worked out fine. The mashed potatoes are alright. Not my best, but I didn't have many ingredients at the time. But after mashing the potatoes for a while, they were finally ready, and we take a good little taste of our mashed potatoes to make sure that they're good. And they're pretty good. Again, not my best, but not my worst. And we are going to pull out our nice big cutting board and put some flour all over that thing, because we got to roll out our dough real thin. But what the hell? That sounded so southern. Good God. I'm from Connecticut, and I moved to South Carolina like 5 years ago. Apparently I'm starting to get an accent. God damn it. Anyway, we try to roll it out in a nice long rectangular shape, and we try to get it about as thin as we can. Now, I have a little pierogi maker thing right there, so I use that for most of it, but I'm going to show you guys how to do it without a pierogi maker. So you're going to want to get your dough flat out on the cutting board, and you're going to want to get a nice cup with a nice wide rim. So you use that rim of the cup to cut out some circles of the dough, and those are going to be your pierogies, essentially. So you put your filling right in the middle. Not too much, you don't want it to be overflowing, but after that you just fold it in half, make sure it's nice and pressed down, and I always use a fork to crimp the edges. I believe that's the correct term, crimping. That's what seals in the flavor. The flavor. But yeah, that's what pierogies look like uncooked. I messed up some of them with the pierogi maker, but it's okay. Now we saute up some onions as well because, well, that's what my mom always used to do. And then we toss our pierogies in the pan with them. We're cooking on about medium heat with a bunch of olive oil in the bottom, though you could also use butter or vegetable oil, whatever you got. And just fit as many in the pan as you can at a time. And essentially you want them to go from being that raw dough color to a bit darker and golden brown on the top and bottom. And since you have some extra mashed potatoes, you're just going to want to munch on those while you're cooking the rest of the pierogies, just because they're delicious. Who doesn't love mashed potatoes? And once they're done, fully cooked, golden brown, you're going to top it with those onions and put the rest of the mashed potatoes on your plate and enjoy. Now, it might take a few tries to get the dough right, but if you need any help, you can always borrow Daisy. She is quite good at kneading dough. And playing fetch and destroying everything I own. But, you know, that's just the territory of owning a cat. Alright, pierogies are done and we're on to, I think it's the sunflowers up next. And since these guys aren't made of meat, I don't think, we're going to take a slightly different approach to cooking these big boys. So I am a big vegetable enjoyer, and I always just cut them up, season them up a little bit, and put them in a pan until they are nice and soft and delicious. So that's what we're going to do with the sunflowers here. We don't need our hammer to tenderize these guys, so we're just going to start off with the knife, get some good cuts on them, and then fry them up with our fire. Now, I love sunflower seeds. I don't know why, I just randomly got them one day from Publix or something, the grocery store that's around here. And then I started to put them on, like, everything, especially avocado toast. I love sunflower seeds on avocado toast, it's really good. But they are quite addicting as just a regular snack as well. I don't know, it's weird. I know. Anywho, our flaming knife does some solid damage against the Erdtree avatar, and we slice them up real thin in order to get a nice cook in the pan. It wasn't all easy though. The sunflower certainly fought back, and try as I might, I couldn't do anything to dodge all of its attacks because sometimes I just suck at dodging. I am not very good at this game, hence why my challenge runs are more so cosplay runs. That being said though, I am curious about a whip only run. And I don't mean like access to all the whips, I just mean the basic leather whip that you get in Castle Morn. I think that would be a really good challenge actually. I don't know. I might do that for 2 weeks from now. I think that'd be fun. And you know, that's one of the things that I love about this game so much. There are so many different ways to play it. Oh, also check this. If you have the deflecting hard tier, you can just block every single one of these charge attacks. And it is so satisfying. I love it. Hands down my favorite thing they added in the DLC. Yeah. So, what are some good sunflower seed recipes? Let me think. Oh, I have an idea. Let's make a nice salad. I don't usually eat salads, but I think I can think of a good recipe for a sunflower seed salad. So since this guy has vines and plants and leaves, we're going to chop off those leaves and vines and we're going to use those as the base for our salad. Now I always like to add some fresh cherry tomatoes to my salads when I don't eat them. And fresh croutons are a must. And all you do to make croutons, take some good quality bread, you drench it in some olive oil for a little bit, salt, and then you put it in the oven, letting it cook and harden. And fresh croutons are amazing. Now of course this wouldn't be a sunflower seed salad without the sunflower seeds, so we're going to harvest some seeds from this sunflower. Now after that, we're just going to make a quick vinaigrette to finish this thing off. And you just need some olive oil as the base, vinegar of course, some Dijon mustard for some flavor. I would use maple syrup, either that or honey for a little bit of sweetness. You don't want it to be just acidy. That's not very fun. And then you could also add some garlic if you want a little bit of extra flavor, and some salt and pepper, of course. Mix that all together in a bowl or a cup, and then you got your sunflower seed salad dressing. And I don't know if that would actually be a good salad. I just made all of that up. Again, I don't really eat salads too often, so ow. Yeah, I didn't win on my first attempt. Though on my second attempt, the first two sunflowers went about the exact same. The third one, however, went a little bit better. Though I had used a lot of flasks by that time, I guess I'm just not very good at these bosses quite yet. Get him, get him, get him! Get him, get him! Okay, I think we got him. Just cook him up a little bit. Wall of sparks to that. Oh my god. Oh, please don't die. Why'd you only use one? That's crazy. Okay, I will take that win. Good god. Yeah, Wall of Sparks did a lot of damage there. I didn't even get a chance to eat him. Next up is the Mother of Fingers, and Freddy Foreshadow here. It didn't go too well. Good god, I did not think I would ever have difficulty with that boss, but I died so many times. Anyway, I knocked out the Finger Ruins questline. I rang those finger bells, and I talked to the Count of Fingers, Finger Ymir, and then he randomly disappeared. We opened up the secret passageway underneath of his throne, and then we fought a lady who kind of looked like Sauron, and we beat her up pretty quickly and easily. And then finally, we were allowed to fight the Mother of Fingers. Now, I figured that the Mother of Fingers would take a little bit more tenderizing than the rest of the bosses, hence why we broke out the Wheel of Giza once more. I also find this boss pretty disgusting, and I didn't really want to try eating it or making a good meal out of it, so we're just going to focus on the tenderizing part and see how far we can get. Now, the Wheel of Giza is so nice. It does bleed damage, I mentioned that earlier, but it also does really good poise damage, especially on jump attacks, so we quite often got that nice poise break. And I don't know why, but I just kept dying to this boss so many times. I guess my armor isn't very good, so I could not absorb much damage. That could have been it. And man, I got so close that time. Oh my god. I can't believe I died like that. Anyway. So let's show you guys the winning run that took me nearly an hour to achieve somehow. God, I don't know how. Oh, and quick question, does anybody live near Vancouver, Washington? My sister lives out there, and my lease ends in February here in South Carolina, so I was thinking about possibly moving up there. Just wondering if anybody knew if it was a fun spot or not. I could use a change of pace and a fresh start, to be honest. It's been a little while. Plus, I don't know how many of y'all have been to South Carolina, but outside of Charleston and Greenville, there's nothing at all. No mountains, just flat, boring farmland throughout most of South Carolina. Charleston's nice though. So yeah, a change of pace might be nice, plus I really miss the mountains. I grew up in the hills of Connecticut, and that nature is something that means a lot to me. So, I mean, we'll see. Let me know if anybody lives there, and if anybody thinks it's a cool or terrible spot to live. I'm just curious. Thanks. No. I always get hit by that attack. No. Back up. Back up. Okay, thank God. God, why do I suck today? Come on, just give me a poise break right here. That's all I need. One little poise break, eh? Thank God. Alright, F this, we're done. Anyway, with the Mother of Fingers dealt with, we are finally free and allowed to move on to the next boss. And we don't really have too many left. We have Mr. Midra, Lord of Frenzied Flame, Bayle, and I think Radahn, and that's it. So we'll take on Midra next. I head down to the Abyssal Woods and make my way through the most eerie area in all of Elden Ring, and find my way to Midra's Manse. Now, we also make our way through Midra's Manse, which is a little puzzle-like area where you have to solve a mini puzzle and jump through some fake doors and whatnot. And it kind of reminds me of Assassin's Creed 2, where you have those assassin tombs where you gotta figure out the puzzle and get through the building or catacomb or whatever it is to find the secret assassin tomb. I don't know. I'm sure you guys remember that if you've played the game. That's how you get Altair's armor set. Good times. I've been doing a playthrough in the background of Assassin's Creed 2 recently, and it's such a good game. Still, the story is amazing. Ezio is such a great character. I freaking love that guy. Of course, before long, we did make our way through Midra's Manse, and we found our way to our little monkey friend here, who we thoroughly beat with a hammer. And with this boss, I'm thinking about making some monkey bread. And monkey bread is really interesting, so essentially it's hard to explain. Okay, so you grab some store-bought biscuit dough and you cut each biscuit into like quarters essentially. After that you coat it in some cinnamon and sugar. And also you're going to want to melt some butter with some brown sugar in it. And then you're going to take those cinnamon sugar biscuit pieces and you're going to form them into like a giant donut shape. And then once it is all together in that giant donut shape, that's when you pour the brown sugar butter over the top of it and make sure it's evenly coated around the edges. And you bake it in the oven probably around 350 for, I don't know, 10 to 15 minutes until it's fully cooked. And once it is fully cooked, you take it out and you can kind of pull it apart. Like each little biscuit piece is easy to take off and eat, and I've actually never had monkey bread myself, but I keep seeing it on like Instagram and stuff, and it looks really good. Alright, we're getting pretty close to it. Ow. A poise break. Just a few more hits. Oh, that was a good frost. Come on, stop. There we go. Sick poise break. This is the run right here. Let's finish this bad boy off. Oh, okay. Okay, stop. Okay, there we go. That was fun. Alright, 2 more to go. We got Bayle next, of course. And Bayle hurts sometimes, especially when you get so close on your first attempt, only to lose it all at the last second. And when you get even closer on your second attempt, only to get tail whipped by that big dragon. Anywho, the dragon is a beautiful meat, kinda tastes like chicken, so we're gonna do a chicken parm recipe for this fight. Of course, we got our homemade pasta and homemade sauce ready for this. And all you need for the pasta, 1 cup of flour, 1 egg, and a pinch of salt. Mix it all together, that's your pasta dough. And essentially you can just roll it out and cut it into thin strips, and that would be your fettuccine or spaghetti, however thin you cut it. The sauce just takes 1 can of fresh crushed tomatoes. I like to put some basil, salt, pepper, a little bit of honey, and any other veggies that I would like to add to the sauce. I usually add onions and garlic as well, so you let that simmer and cook for a little bit and crush up the tomatoes a bit more. And there you go, you got fresh pasta and sauce for your chicken parm. Now we gotta deal with the chicken. So I'm going to start by tenderizing this meat a little bit with my hammer, and once it's nice and tender, that's when we take out our lovely butchering knife to slice up some chicken breast in order to prepare it for our chicken parm. Wow, I almost died there, that was crazy. Now it's best to start slicing the dragon after you get a poise break, and this just makes it a bit easier when he's not like moving around a bit. You get more even cuts and better dragon breasts. But once you do get those nice strips of dragon, all you gotta do from there is pull out 3 bowls. One of them, you put a bunch of eggs in there and mix them all around. Another one, you have some flour with salt and pepper in it. And the third one, you got some breadcrumbs and Parmesan cheese. You start by coating the dragon breast in a healthy layer of flour. After that, you dip it in the egg wash till it is nice and wet and moist. And then you dip it in the breadcrumbs and Parmesan cheese that you prepared earlier. And you're gonna get ready to fry it in a pan. So, dragon takes a little while to cook. And you're gonna want it on about as high of a heat as you can possibly get it, and just leave it roasting for at least 3 to 4 hours. And if you guys do try to cook chicken parm with this recipe, don't do that. That's a terrible idea. I'm just saying it for the jokes, because dragons breathe fire, so they'd probably be fire resistant. Now, once the meat is fully cooked, and you're going to want to make sure that it has gone from pink to a healthy white, I like to top it with a bit of mozzarella and make sure that melts on it nice and evenly. Finally, we top it with our sauce, and then have some pasta either on the side, or you could put that on top as well. But it's a classic, you can't go wrong with dragon parmesan. Now thankfully Mr. Bayle right here wasn't too big of an issue. We can usually just tank through all of his hits. He has a lot of openings as well and a lot of time for us to heal, especially when we summon our big friend Egon, who is the absolute champ, and I love him so much. His desperate wails of fury and anger are what keep me going throughout my life, and I don't know if I would still be here without him. And with that, it's time for the final fight. And it went really well. I didn't get it on my first try, no, but it wasn't at all a bad attempt, except for that start where I got smacked by his opening attack, which I'm usually pretty good at dodging, but I don't know what was up. Anyway, I was missing something pretty important for this fight. Something that I always use in Phase 2, that being Lord's Divine Fortification. Lord's Divine Fortification is an incantation that you can get from Gideon, or after you unlock Lanedale Ashen Capital and you buy from the Twin Maiden Husk, and it just massively increases your holy damage resistance, making it one of the best spells in the game if you want to stay alive during Radahn's Phase 2. So my first hour or so of attempts, I tried to get him down with my low vigor. I think I'm still at 35 right now. And I got him decently close a few times, but I just couldn't tank through his hits whenever I made a mistake. So I ended up increasing my vigor, of course. Though one of these days, I will take him down with less than 40. I think I'm going to go in increments of 5 each run, where I beat him with 5 less vigor than the previous run. Maybe I'll beat him with like 0 vigor at some point, who knows. Regardless, we have to get Lord's Divine Fortification, and I didn't unlock Lanedale Ashen Capital yet, so I need to go do that. That involves beating up the Beast Clergyman right here. So I pull out my Putrescent Cleaver because it does the most damage, and at this point I kind of wanted to finish up the run. I was at Radahn, and I was like, okay, let's get this done. And there's no way in hell I'm giving you a recipe for this guy, considering he is a dog, and we do not eat dogs. They are way too kind and wholesome for that, so I will never, ever murder a dog for food. Though apparently I will for Lord's Divine Fortification. I used to hate this boss fight. Phase 1 never really bothered me too much, but Phase 2 used to be like so hard for me. That's probably because I kept trying to run away from all of his attacks instead of like staying up close and trying to fight him. And that really is the secret, isn't it? You just gotta stay close, stick to the crotch, roll in between his legs as he does his overhead slam attacks. And he actually has a lot of openings. So he went from being one of my least favorite boss fights in the main game to being one of my favorite boss fights in the main game, once I learned it. And that goes for Radahn in the DLC too. The more I play against him, and the better I get at him, the more I appreciate his moveset. Miyazaki's certainly done it again, where he made something so difficult that you can't help but feel so much pride and accomplishment when you manage to get good at it and complete it. And that really is the theme of these Soulsborne games and Souls-like games, isn't it? I mean, you start off as a weak, penniless wretch, I suppose, and you get bodied by everything in your path for so long, but you slowly gain more power throughout the game, and eventually you start to take on these monsters and gods. You show true bravery and commitment in the face of overwhelming adversity. And if you manage to succeed, well, that feeling of accomplishment is unmatched. I just wish that more people would give this game a real chance. I know it's really popular as is, but there are so many people who just pick it up and put it right back down because of how difficult it is at the start. And it's supposed to be. And it's such a good experience when you learn how to play it. And this is my first Souls game, ever. My buddy Johnny carried me through most of the game, and eventually I just started playing without him. Once I saw these cool spells and weapons, I was like, oh my god, I want those. So I started gathering spells and equipment and weapons, and I started facing the bosses on my own, and eventually we're where we are now. We're at Radahn, ready for the final showdown. I bumped my vigor up to 55 so I could get this done. I equipped Lord's Divine Fortification, and I brought out my trusty butchering knife for our final confrontation with this demigod. And if y'all have seen my previous videos, you can imagine that Phase 1 went pretty well. Didn't really run into any issues here. And Phase 2 is where it got a bit more difficult. I put Royal Knight's Resolve on my butchering knife as well, just because I thought it would be kind of fun and get us some solid chunky damage. And honestly, I'm not making a recipe out of this fella. Especially considering that 9 times out of 10, he's the one that cooks me. And this fight gets easier and easier the more I use the deflecting hard tier. It is such a helpful item for Radahn. I'm sure you guys know how powerful shields are against him. This just turns your weapon into a shield if you have good enough reaction time. Ooh, that was a sick voice break. And enjoy the rest of the fight, guys. We will reconvene upon Radahn's defeat. that was a good one. A fun fight and a really fun run. And I just want to thank you guys for all of the run ideas. I have so many amazing ideas that you guys gave me that I will be tackling throughout the coming weeks and months. And I want to thank my channel member Micah for A, becoming a channel member, and B, giving me some ideas for weapons to use for this run. Super helpful. I would not have thought of the Wheel of Giza without you, my friend. And to everyone else who watched this video, I just want to say thank you for all the support. I love you guys, and it really does mean the world to me. And by the way, here's a little sneak peek on next week's video. I'm sure you can guess what we're going to be doing. And honestly, it's been more difficult than I thought it would be so far. Anyway, if you like this sort of content and you want to see more, go ahead and subscribe. Maybe check out my previous videos, because we got a lot of Elden Ring runs down now, so got a lot of good content up. But if you don't want to subscribe, that's totally fine. Your viewership, as always, is quite enough for me. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a good one. Peace.